Here are headlines. And Sir Keir Starmer defends his government's budget as the Chancellor faces claims that she misled the public about the state of the UK's finances.
A mom who believes social media played a part in her son's death says police are reviewing new material after she hired a private investigator.
Two former heads of UK Special Forces are accused of suppressing evidence of possible SAS war crimes.
Good morning. Pubs, bars and restaurants warn they will struggle with a jump in business rates as they calculate an unexpected rise in their bills from last week's budget.
In sport, Britain's Lando Norris is made to wait for a first Formula One world title as team error means we're set for a three-way championship showdown in the final race in Abu Dhabi next weekend.
And we start the week with a Met Office amber warning for rain, risk of flooding in parts of South Wales. Some wet and windy weather elsewhere too. I'll have all the details.
Dot, dash, 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 dot, dit, dit.
And on the day we launch our GCHQ Christmas puzzle series, we speak to Cynthia, a 100-year-old veteran who knows a thing or two about cracking codes. Let's have a look at this morning's newspapers. We're going to start today with The Times. They're leading with comments from ministers who've told the paper they believe the Chancellor misled them over a hole in the public finances. The paper reports Rachel Reeves repeatedly highlighted a downgrade in productivity forecasts to justify tax rises.
It's over the front page of all the papers. The Mail leading with calls by Nigel Farage for the Chancellor to face a so-called sleaze probe. The paper carrying comments from the Reform Party leader who says Ms Reeves' conduct in the run-up to last week's budget was a grave concern. The Guardian has an interview with the Prime Minister this morning in which he says his bold economic plan will take years to deliver. Writing in the paper, Sir Keir Starmer also defended his Chancellor's decision to raise taxes by £26 billion in the budget. And the Daily Telegraph today highlights a portion of the budget which it says was buried last week. The paper reports that teenagers with certain mental health conditions like anxiety or ADHD won't be required to attend school or training for their parents to qualify for benefits. Now, in the last few minutes, the telecommunications watchdog Ofcom has said it's fining Virgin Media nearly £24 million for failing vulnerable customers during the switch from analogue landlines to a digital service. Ben can tell us more. Ben, big fine.
It is a big fine, and it's a big issue that many viewers have got in touch with us about every time we have discussed it, the digital switchover. Yes, good morning. Ofcom has imposed a fine of almost £24 million on Virgin Media for failing to protect vulnerable customers during that switchover to digital landlines. It has been investigating whether Virgin Media was complying with rules to protect vulnerable customers during that move from analogue to digital, something the whole telecoms industry is doing. The regulator had concerns about the impact on people with telecare systems which rely on landlines. So when someone presses the help button, it automatically calls the emergency services over a landline. At the moment, those continue to work even during power cuts because traditional copper phone lines normally are unaffected by loss of electricity. When telecare services move to digital lines, there are concerns they might not work during power outages or internet dropouts. So the regulator Ofcom said providers must take measures to ensure uninterrupted access for customers to emergency organisations and identify and support vulnerable customers. Ofcom has ruled this morning that Virgin Media failed to properly identify and record the status of telecare customers. Inadequate and inconsistent with its own policy was the verdict. Ofcom found gaps in the screening process to identify those customers, meaning those affected did not receive the appropriate level of support. Ofcom also criticised Virgin Media's approach to disconnecting known telecare customers, despite being reasonably aware of the risks, thereby exposing those vulnerable customers to risk of harm, which prevented their devices from connecting to monitoring centres when the disconnection was in place. Now, Virgin Media previously said it was working closely with Ofcom and the government, but other parties must also take responsibility. Ofcom says that Virgin Media has taken steps to avoid a repeat of the failings in future.
The Prime Minister and the Chancellor insist they did not mislead the public in the run-up to the budget.
It was inevitable that we would always have to raise revenue, so there's no misleading there.
Tonight, the head of the Office for Budget Responsibility has resigned after the Chancellor's budget was leaked before she'd even got to her feet.
Yes, the rows and consequences of that budget rumble on, and that almighty foul-up last week cost a senior figure his job.
Also tonight, resident doctors have just announced another 5-day strike in England in the week before Christmas, the third this year. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok in Australia, all under 16s will be banned from using them from next week. Children tell us what they think of the clampdown on social media.
It's not going to solve those kinds of issues. Kids are going to still go on it. Kids are still going to get cyberbullied.
I think it'll have a pretty good impact.
And will AI soon be doing the work of an entire film crew? We put it to the test.
The Labour MP and former Minister Tulip Siddique hits out in the Bangladeshi court, which sentenced her to 2 years in prison over corruption allegations. More Birmingham bin strikes. This time it's agency workers brought in to replace striking crews on the picket lines.
Please get in touch. We're here to help. And don't forget to check in on
Virgin Media fined for putting its vulnerable customers at risk. Why upgrading the post box could spell doom for these world-famous yarn bombers. A couple of other stories now. The SAS is being accused of covering up war crimes in Afghanistan. A whistleblower has made allegations to the Afghanistan inquiry after incidents including the shooting of 2 small children. He said he first passed on the information to the Director of Special Forces in 2011, but that a conscious decision was made to hide it. The man accused of carrying out a mass stabbing on a high-speed train from Doncaster to London a month ago has refused to appear before court today. 32-year-old Anthony Williams will go on trial next year over the attack, in which at least 10 people were seriously injured. And a UK company director has pleaded guilty to supplying counterfeit plane parts that led to the grounding of airliners 2 years ago. AOG Technics supplied engine parts for the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. Jose Hirala admitted defrauding customers and will be sentenced in February.